Sure.
All right, so before we begin, the way we're going to do this is we're just going to screen share the workshop. So you guys will see most of the icons move to the side, but you should be able to access the chat regardless. So again, continue to send us questions if you have them. If you have comments, you can also just add like, hey, I have a comment, we'll unmute you, and then we can like figure out a good way to do this. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. All right, can everyone see the PowerPoint? Just do the reaction maybe. So yeah, okay. Cool. All right, sweet. Perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Mia. Today we're presenting to you all on just some resources for COVID-19. We're with the Center for Financial Capability, so it's a financial literacy center on campus for all students. So I know right now it's kind of the on-campus analogy doesn't really work because we're not on campus, but we're still here for you all to help you in any way that we can. We're partners in education with the New Sender Credit Union. So what that means is that we're backed by professionals, and they kind of support us and help us put together the content, so we're not just finding information on random sites on Google and handing it to y'all. We do have their stamp of approval on the content we're putting out there, but I'll let Adam take it over from here.
Yeah, so my name is Adam. I also work for the Center for Financial Capability. These resources were kind of compiled because we recognize that a lot of students are facing a lot of different hardships. And so we kind of want to touch those different areas and see if we can offer something to you that you may have not heard before or may not know how to access. So the first thing we're going to cover is kind of our money topics. The first one I want to talk about is our emergency scholarships. So the way emergency scholarships work, they're kind of an initiative that was already set forth by a lot of these different resource centers, but have been ramped up since this pandemic has happened. What you do is you can go to these different links here, and we'll post this somewhere after, so you can click on these links, or if not, you can always look up these resource centers, and it's like the first thing you see when you look them up. And you can apply, and you can talk about, like, it's typically for like an emergency, right? That's the name, emergency scholarship. So if you have something that's come up that requires you, like you can't pay rent or something happened and you're not able to do something and you need money, you can apply for these. These different scholarships have different requirements, so definitely look at all of them and see which ones kind of fit you the best. And then just so that they can help the most students possible, you are limited to one. So if you are able to get one, congratulations. You will be not allowed to get any others. That's just so they can reach as many students as possible, though.
Okay, so Martha had a question on when the scholarships are due. So we're covering that in this next slide. So just some more information about these scholarships. The eligibility is that you have to be a current undergraduate or graduate student, which basically means you have to be a student at UNM. Some of them are exclusively for undergraduate students. So for example, ASUNM only offers it for the undergraduate population, but Al Centro de la Raza offers it for undergrads and grads. So like, just make sure that you go through these different applications and find one that is best suited for you. The application deadlines vary. So the one that's coming up the soonest is for ASUNM. It's due on April 18th. And you have to turn in your application by that date, obviously, to be eligible. But there's other ones that have those dates later on in the semester. So don't be afraid if you find that you're not able to apply within like the next 2 days. The amount is pretty consistent. It's $500 per student. And again, like Adam mentioned, you can only get this once. Even you can't really go to 3 different resource centers and get $500 from each. We're trying to maximize how many students are impacted by this amount. And then finally, you may be required to turn in a 1-page personal statement expressing the situation that created the emergency and how it will support your educational goals. Again, like, the goal with these scholarships is to keep students in school and help them out in times like these. So there has to be an emergency present for you to be qualified and receive these scholarships. And again, to prove that, you will have to type out a personal statement.
Awesome.
Sweet. Are there any questions at this time? Then you could just use the chat. But I don't know if you had something. Go ahead.
You're good.
Okay, cool. I don't see any questions. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part.
Awesome. So the next thing we're going to cover is kind of those stimulus checks. I'm sure all of you have heard you've heard this a lot, maybe not learned a lot about it, or just kind of curious about some specifics for it. So we've compiled all this information, and this comes straight off the IRS website. So you know it's factual. And so we'll definitely relay that to you now. So the first thing is, who is eligible? So the people that are eligible is United States citizens and resident aliens. Basically, as long as you have a valid social security number, you are able to get the stimulus check. The next part is a little more interesting one because this unfortunately hurts a lot of college students. You cannot be claimed as a dependent. So if anyone claims you as a dependent, unfortunately, you're not eligible for the stimulus check. And that's kind of how they're operating right now. But then once you get through those kind of two criteria, the next thing you move on to is an income criteria. For single households or people who are file single, you have to make 75K or less. If you're filing as head of household, it's 112K or less. And then if you are married and you file jointly, it's 150 or less. And then the next part kind of talks about how much you're eligible to get.
Okay, so the next part, like Adam said, is to talk about how much you're eligible to get. So eligibility will depend on, again, your filing status. So if you're single and head of household, the maximum that you can receive is $1,200 through this. If you're married, it's $2,400. And for every qualifying child that's 17 years or under, you receive $500 per child. And this will go to the tax filer. So if your parents claimed all their kids as dependents, and if you are 17 or under, or one of your siblings is 17 years or younger, then $500 will be added to the stimulus check per child for your parents. Again, if you make more than these income levels, so let's say for single, it's $75,000. So for every $100 that you make over that, your stimulus check will decrease in amount by $5. So what that means is, let's say you make $75,100, then you will receive $1,200 minus the $5. So which will be like $1,995. Yeah. If you are not really sure how like the dependency status is determined, then you can ask your parents to see if they claimed you as a dependent. But in most cases, how it's determined is if someone pays for more than 50% of your support, then you are their dependent. If you all have any follow-up questions for that, just go ahead and send us the questions in the chat.
Before we move on, I know that, can we go back to the last slide, Mia? Awesome. Before we move on, I don't know, like mine's been cut off by the video. So if you want to see the full slide, you can definitely try and minimize like our videos on the side here. I don't know if y'all have the same, just so you can see the information. Maybe we'll wait a couple seconds because I know mine was definitely cut off, but then we'll move on. Okay, I feel like probably good. Okay, we're probably good then. Awesome. So the next question people might be asking is, how do I get my check? There's a lot of different like things flying around out there, like, oh, how do you get your check and stuff like that. So we wanted to get the correct information. So according to the IRS, and if we go to the next slide, yeah, most Americans, you don't really actually have to do anything. What they'll do is they'll look at your tax information from the past year, or if you don't have it from the year before, and then they'll determine eligibility from there, and they'll disperse out the money the way that you usually get your tax returns. So if you put in direct deposit, thumbs up for you, that's always great because you'll get your money faster. The IRS will just use your direct deposit information and put it in your accounts. Those actually started hitting people's accounts this past Sunday, and will continue for a couple of weeks. The other thing too is if you don't, they'll mail you out a check. Recently, the IRS released a tool which kind of first helps you figure out the status of your refund and also allows you to kind of input your banking information if you would like to get your money through direct deposit, because checks could take up to a couple months is what they're saying. So you probably want your money sooner. So definitely check it out. We have the link right there, kind of describing where to get the how to find out where your check is, and in general, how to put in your banking information. Also, for those of you who maybe you make less than the amount that you need to file, so you don't actually file taxes, the IRS has a portal where you can input some simple information and still get your stimulus check. You're still eligible to get it even if you don't file taxes. And then one big thing to be careful of is scams. There's a lot of people out there who might tell you you need to pay a certain amount of money to someone to get this check, or the IRS will never call you, and they, for the most part, won't reach out to you on this unless there's like an extenuating circumstance. But they'll never send you like, oh, these are links you need to click or things like that. So just be careful of scams.
Cool. So the next part of this, sorry, y'all, I have like a lot going on my screen right now. Okay, so next part is the co-op capital. So this is a program that's offered by Newsenda. And basically how this works, it's low interest loans for mostly individuals and business owners. And they work with you to plan your payments. So if you check out their website, which is listed as the last bullet point, they're not charging interest for the first year, and the first payment is not due until 90 days from when you take it out. So again, what that means is 90 days from today, let's say you take out a loan, and 90 days from today, when you're paying that back, you'll only be paying back the principal amount, and it would not have accrued interest for these 3 months or for the rest of the remainder of the year. The loan is funded in a non-traditional sense. So they're using partners around the community to fund these things. And that's why the eligibility is not determined by the 5 C's of credit. So if you don't know what they are, that's kind of like a longer tangent that we could go down. But it's basically like a lot of things like your credit score and stuff like your character, your collateral, all these things, which they're not using. Instead, they're using different criteria to hand out loans. And it's ideal for individuals who are looking to start a project or keep their business afloat, especially during times like these. This might be a really great resource. So definitely check it out. And again, if you want more information, you can explore that link at the bottom.
Yeah, and also in terms of some other loans that are being offered, the Dean of Students is actually offering a short-term loan. It's a 7% interest loan that's due in 45 days, but typically you get the money within 24 hours. And if any of y'all want to kind of go down that route, all you'd have to do is contact capital D, capital O, capital S, capital O at unm.edu. And for most of these applications, it's a maximum of $800.
Mm-hmm. So right now we have a question from Martha. Can the links be sent in the chat or through email? I'm assuming this means like the links for the IRS and stuff like that. So what we'll go ahead and do is we'll upload this presentation to our social media and our website. So that way it'll be accessible to everyone, even those who weren't able to attend this. If you want this emailed to you, definitely send me your email address and I can go ahead and do that for you as well. Sweet. We'll move on to technology. Adam, go for it.
Awesome. So another thing too is a lot of our classes have kind of moved online, and that kind of puts a little bit of a strain on us, especially if we're not used to that. So some of us may not even have like laptops or things like that. So what the university is doing is first the university is allowing students to check out laptops. These are kind of based on need, so given priority to Pell eligible students. And most of the like more information about this and like how to actually do these things is at the link at the bottom. But another thing the university is offering too is Dane Smith is still operating its computer lab. Those hours are kind of listed at the link at the bottom. Obviously, they're still maintaining social distancing guidelines and stuff like that, but the computer lab is open for you to come and use. In general, the Wi-Fi for UNM is still working. So it's kind of weird because the link said this. I don't know if I necessarily recommend this to people, but technically speaking, if you can get like close enough to a UNM building that has Wi-Fi, you can access the Wi-Fi. I don't know, maybe you go park your car next to one of the dorms or something. That's kind of weird, but if you want to do it, hey, whatever works, works. Another thing too is for those students who moved off campus. I think you had to apply for this, but you might be able to still get it. The university gave you a stipend. It's called some kind of technology stipend. I don't remember the name, and I actually can't see. Let's see if it says it. Sorry. Okay, I didn't put it, but yeah, it's a technology stipend. And the way it works is they just give you money to help you with like technology costs. It's a couple $100 to get Wi-Fi basically set up and running. Another thing too is the city of Albuquerque is offering free Wi-Fi hotspots. There's over 70 of them, I think. There's a lot of them. So the link at the bottom has more information about specific locations, but it just comes up as COA free wireless. One thing with free wireless hotspots that you should just be careful of in general is never access your personal information over that, because that can easily be stolen. But like school stuff should be fine, especially if you need to get work done. And CenturyLink and Comcast, who are kind of like the big internet providers here in Albuquerque, they are offering deals to new customers, and for current customers, they're increasing your speeds. So another thing a lot of people may worry about too is bills. You know, bills are something that keep coming even though maybe everything else is shut down. So one thing that's kind of cool is a lot of utility companies they're not cutting off your service due to no payment. One thing to keep in mind, and I'll kind of reiterate this through the whole slide, is that doesn't mean that you don't owe, and you'll definitely owe that money at some point. But if you get to a point where typically they would cut off your service, they won't just because you aren't able to pay. Another thing that's really cool is a lot of motor insurance companies are offering refunds on premiums. A lot of the companies came out and said that they would just do it automatically for customers, but if yours hasn't said anything or you haven't heard anything, it's worth calling and asking. I know my parents called our car insurance company and they offered us a discount, so they're going to refund us some money here at the end of the month. And it's a good way to save some money. Another thing too is for those who maybe pay rent and stuff like that, New Mexico State Supreme Court has ordered a temporary halt on most evictions. So what this means is it's only for non-payments. Typically you have to meet their criteria, and it doesn't mean your landlord won't evict you. Your landlord still may evict you, but if you take it to court, the judge, as long as it meets the criteria, will not legally enforce the eviction. Um, New Mexico Legal Aid is offering free and reduced legal services to those who are kind of going through these. And obviously, if you're going through this process in general, that's it sucks. You know, it's really hard. But this legal aid is a really good place that offers a lot of services, even when pandemics aren't happening. One thing to keep in mind too is the CARES Act of signed in federal law also allows homeowners to delay mortgage payments. With all of these things, one thing to definitely be careful of is it doesn't mean that your bills are forgiven. And actually right now there's no concrete plan to forgive bills. There's not even really a concrete plan to like kind of distribute the payments out over time. So technically speaking, when this is all over, your bills may become due right away, and that could put you in a sticky spot. So if you're still able to pay, I highly recommend paying, because you don't want to have where you're at the end of this and then they say, oh, the bill's due and you may owe a lot of money. One thing too with the non-evictions is it's only for non-payments. So if you're getting evicted for some other reason, that will still legally stand.
Perfect. So the next thing is just food in general. So obviously during this time, a lot of the students we know have lost their jobs, and groceries is kind of like the first like thing that comes like need wise. So the Loba Food Pantry is still functioning Mondays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. It's walk up and drive up only. So what that means is if you go to the University Advisement and Enrichment Center parking lot, if you don't know where that is, it's the white building really close to Johnson Field. And you can just drive up and they will give you a pre-prepared bag of groceries, which includes like food, canned food, as well as um, like more like shelf stable stuff. And then the Roadrunner Food Bank is also offering food donations at their warehouse and mobile community locations. So one of the closest ones to UNM is the UNM South lot, and it's on Fridays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. But they also have a bunch of other locations throughout Albuquerque and I believe New Mexico. So again, for more information, you can check out that link and find one location that is close to you. There's a question, is UNM Food Pantry first come, first serve? So yes, it is. They don't really check like income eligibility or anything like that. So even if you still have your job, even if you're still looking for more help for food and stuff, you can go to them. But again, like it's only until supplies last. Sweet.
Awesome. So a lot of you may be thinking too, you know, these times are rough and you like to help or give back in some way. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities, especially with related to the coronavirus. So one thing to look at is the city of Albuquerque is always looking for volunteers, but especially during this time, if you go to their link that I've listed there, you can kind of sign up as a volunteer, and then it can kind of help connect you to different resources in different areas that need help. whether it be helping at some shelters or helping at food banks or stuff like that. More specifically related to food banks, the New Mexico Association of Food Banks is looking for volunteers. So this isn't just Roadrunner Food Bank. This is actually like all the food banks that are operated in New Mexico. They're looking for volunteers, obviously, but they're also looking for donations. A lot of these food banks, have seen an increase in demand and a significant drop in the supply they're getting. So it's putting a lot of strain on them. So definitely looking to donate there, or even if you want to just help with time, is that any help they can get, they're really appreciative of. And then another thing too is if you're looking to donate supplies, that link right there is kind of a list of different shelters, especially here in New Mexico and even in Albuquerque. And you can just look at the different shelters and see where you would be able to take some supplies if you want to donate some things to them. Awesome. So other resources too. In general, this is kind of just big resources related to the coronavirus. So for the University of Mexico, this is kind of the link that I put there. It's the best place to find different information that's happening with UNM and coronavirus, and just different department specific stuff or just different initiatives that they have. I use this link a lot to kind of help build this presentation and find out what UNM is doing. The next one is cabq.gov. That's for the city of Albuquerque. It's just the second you click it, like that's the first thing that pops up, and it tells you a lot of different information about city initiatives, what the city's doing, their current standards and the current guidelines. There's also a coronavirus hotline right there, so that's the number you can call if you're starting to feel symptomatic or just things related to coronavirus specifically. You can call that number and have some of your questions answered, and they'll help you determine a lot of different things. Also, if you know anyone who's maybe an elderly or a senior citizen, this is the hotline you can call and you can help get them food still, because I know typically a lot of them depended on food deliveries when the world was working normal. And now that the world has gone a little crazy, they still depend on that a lot more. And so definitely connecting them to those resources. The next one is the State of New Mexico. The State of New Mexico website is really great, offers a lot of different the briefings from the governor, or just different things related to the coronavirus. And the number below is super cool. I actually called it. It's for non-related health or non-health related non-health related coronavirus questions. You call, and then it gives you a whole kind of list of options, and you can press a number related to oh, you need help with unemployment, or oh, you need help with finding food, or just different options you can do if you call that number. And then the last link is kind of just the CDC's website in general, that just gives you basic guidelines on how to carry out your life and be health conscious, and just in general where the coronavirus is now in the United States.
So that kind of concludes our presentation of the COVID-19 resources. So for the next 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just be talking about the services that CFC offers in general. While I do that, if you all have any questions, again, use the chat function to send those our way. If you have any comments, some resources that we missed out on, again, feel free to just let us know, hey, I have a comment, and we'll go ahead and unmute you. So some services that CFC offers throughout the year is we offer workshops. So obviously this is one of them. And with the workshops comes the financial relief aspect. So as you all know, we offer a $100 scholarship every workshop, and it's based on luck. So we just do a scholarship drawing. These topics are all under the broad spectrum of financial literacy. So we've talked about budgeting, credit, investing, taxes, debt management, and literally anything that falls under financial literacy. So if y'all have any questions about these, we can also address them one-on-one. So Adam and I are both certified financial coaches, and we can sit down one-on-one with you and help you answer any questions that you have about financial literacy. So if you want to build out a personal budget, or if you want to start thinking about investing but don't really know where to start, or if you even need help filing your taxes, we can do those for you. The tax assistance, kind of like I talked about, we can help you file your taxes, or we can just do them for you. So this was something that we originally offered when we weren't on this lockdown, but right now, we are helping students file their taxes because we know that deadline, even though it has been extended, those things need to be done sooner rather than later. So again, you can use our website to schedule consultations for these things. And then resources, this is to our social media and website. We post helpful articles. We have a budget sheet on our website specifically created for UNM students, where you can put down all your expenses and all your income and compare them side by side to see where you stand. And then this is our contact information. Again, I think the most important resource, which now that I look at it, it's not really on here, it's our website. It's just cfc.unm.edu. On there, you can schedule those one-on-one consultations that I talked about. You can submit a form for tax help. You can find our budget sheet. You can submit a request for a workshop or any of our services for that matter. But were there any questions? Just go ahead and send them to the chat.
Yeah, well, Mia's kind of fielding questions. I think one of our most other important resources too is our Instagram. I know our amazing marketing director, Gabby here, puts out some great content. So it's definitely a great way to keep up with us and kind of what we're doing in general. And any questions you really have, you could even DM it to our Instagram. And we usually find out about it like within minutes and have an answer pretty quick. So definitely Instagram and our websites are like some of the biggest and best ways to keep up with us and just keep in contact with us.
Sweet. So if we don't have any questions, what I'm going to go ahead and do is stop sharing this. And then
Go ahead and stop recording the presentation.
okay, perfect. I'll